Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is that time of the day. Tuesday morning. Oh my. Oh my, oh my, oh my. And just as a reminder that Wednesdays is always iffy for me, and it may even be more iffy than usual tomorrow. So I would give it about a 10% chance I may stream tomorrow. But beyond that, I really don't know. Okay. Mute that phone real quick while I'm thinking about it. And let's see here. Yep. No, I don't want that. I don't want that. Okay. Yeah. I hate YouTube on my phone sometimes. Here lately, it's really been bollocksing things up. All right, here we go. Now I'm done. Okay. Oop, and forgot to shut off the volume there. There we go. Okay. Piece of breaking story just a few minutes ago. Biden admin concedes. Let me share this real quick. Biden admin concedes no evidence behind recommendation for 6 COVID booster shots a year. Wow, I wasn't even aware that they were requesting 6 COVID shots a year. I got my initial 2. And that's because I believed all the fear mongering. All right. 63. I quit smoking 10 years ago. Uh, Overweight, compromised immune system. Okay. Well, good morning, Ramen. I need to see, is this actually streaming over here yet? No, it's not. Uh, so I went ahead and got the COVID shots because that's what they said. And I believe the fear mongering and everything else. And honestly, I'm not ready to die. And I'm not ready to get that sick. So I got my first 2 shots. They were both Moderna. Fortunately, I didn't get any more shots after that. I think my wife had to get a couple of shots because of where she works, but she works for one of these quasi governmental companies, private company with big government contracts. And I think they required her to get a couple of boosters, but other than that. So back to this story. Remember, the Biden administration, what was it? Believe the science. Fauci, I am the science. Oh, good. The sun finally popped. The sun went behind the clouds, and all of a sudden, my entire house got dark. So, anyway, President Joe Biden's administration concedes that there's no scientific evidence to support not apparent, it was a recommendation to receive as many as 6 COVID booster shots in a year. After Health Secretary Xavier Becerra wrote in a social media post on November 29, 2022, that people should get vaccinated if it's been over 2 months since your last dose. The Functional Government Initiative filed a Freedom of Information Act for documents supporting the statements. The watchdog organization then had to sue. They had to sue the Biden administration. When they didn't follow the law. Oh, sorry. They asked for any documents, any scientific support relied and for asked for among other documents, any scientific support relied on by Secretary Barrera by approving or issuing the tweet recommending that all Americans receive a booster shot every 2 months. And any study, synopsis, or other similar document, or document of scientific, academic, or government research on whether bi-monthly booster shot will effectively prevent the transmission or susceptibility to the COVID-19 and known active variants as of November 2022. So that was only 9 months ago. It also asked for internal communications regarding Becerra's statements. In a new response, the government said it had no evidence to support Becerra's recommendation. Now, interesting. Now, why would Becerra be sitting there saying that the American people need to be getting booster shots every 6 months or every 2 months? Why? Does he hold stock in these companies? Is he getting paid by these companies in some way, shape, and or form? Is he doing anything? I mean, what's his ties that he would say that? The department reviewed 1,263 pages of potentially responsive records captured in the agency's search for this FOA request. After a careful review, I determined the 1,263 pages were not relevant to your request. Elisa Williams, an official for the Department of Health and Human Services, told him. The lack of a single record supporting Secretary Becerra's bold public health recommendation for 6 COVID boosters is a startling development. It is tremendously irresponsible for the government's chief health official to fire off tweets. I wonder how many people actually started going out and making appointments to get these booster shots every 2 months. I wonder how many people actually did that. Now, I don't follow Becerra. I follow Biden. I follow Biden, Camel Toe, and the FBI and Department of Justice. That's who those are the only people within the administration or federal government within the administration that I follow. So I didn't get Becerra's tweet. How can the public be assured that the agency is following the science? Remember, follow the science. And you don't have a laboratory, so you can't be determining what the science is. How can the public be assured that the agency is following the science on other important health matters when it demonstrates on such a clear disregard for basic scientific integrity standards on an issue as important as COVID vaccine shots? The group noted that Becerra, a lawyer by training, lacks a background in health. Doctors typically lead that department. Well, you've got to be a lawyer in order to understand what's going on anymore. If you're not a lawyer, it's bad. I had to hire a lawyer to deal with my health issues. That's bad when I got to pay a lawyer to deal with my health issues. As a newer COVID-19 variants have emerged, the vaccines performed increasingly worse. Federal officials inside HHS first cleared the booster shots in 2021 due to flagging effectiveness and have since authorized and recommended additional shots. In the spring of 2023, regulators had authorized without clinical trial data Newly formulated versions of the vaccines aimed at the Omicron subvariants. There's a problem here. Now, I did not have a chance to read this story, and this really bothers me that they authorized without clinical trial data. So somebody just come up with the vaccine, said, "Here, take it, and run and start injecting people with it." What the hell? I don't even make food without tasting it before I serve it to my wife. And these people are making up vaccines, and the regulators are authorizing them for public distribution without any kind of clinical trials. Of course, all these companies, they're been granted immunity from any and all side effects of their shots. What a goat rope. Federal officials had said that people should get a booster if more than 2 months had elapsed since their most recent shot. U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said most people should only receive one additional shot, but certain groups should receive more. Camel Toe Harris claimed that a single shot would protect people for an entire year, and there's no evidence supporting that claim. Becerra said the day after the initial post, an updated COVID vaccine can help protect you from the worst outcomes of COVID. If it's been over 2 months since your last dose, make plans to get another one now. Wow. If that's not a joke. He later wrote, time to get your updated COVID vaccine. If one, you haven't gotten an updated vaccine yet, and a primary series or original booster 2+ months ago. Two, it's been more than 3 months since you've had COVID. If you have a big event in 2 or more weeks, it's a good time to go. The clear message from across the administration is don't wait. Health and Human Secretary, Health and Human Services spokesman previously told the Epic Times after being asked about Becerra's statements. Get your free COVID-19 vaccine. It's safe and effective. People go to vaccines.gov to find free da 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 da. Safe? Really? New vaccines are coming. The updated slate of vaccines isn't working well, prompting plans to implement new formulations that, for the first time, won't include components of the Wuhan virus strain. The updated shots are expected to be rolled out in the fall. Remember, yesterday we just talked about the ZX being planned for over in England. Have to wonder if this is part of, just how tight these people are working together. The CDC's new director, Dr. Mandy Cohen, recently said the agency is poised to recommend annual shots, We anticipate the COVID to become similar to flu shots, where it's going to be you get your annual flu shot, you'll get your annual COVID shot. Representative Brad Wenstrup, Republic of Ohio, chairman of the U.S. Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, and other members asked the CDC for information on the plan recommendation, noting that it would mark a significant change in federal policy and guidance regarding COVID-19 vaccines and the way they are utilized. Hey, Badger, good morning. Wow. All right, so a couple of things, just a couple of things out of that story. All the recommendations these guys have been passing out, they admit they have no scientific basis for them for getting any of these shots. They've got absolutely no evidence for recommendations for 6 COVID booster shots a year. And I tell you what I'm going to do so that y'all can read this for yourselves. There's the link. Boom. Now, Epic's Times, as always, whenever, don't trust any of these news. I don't trust any to be 100% newsworthy, or not newsworthy, but trustworthy. I do believe all of them will leave something out of the story that may or may not be pertinent. Ramen, I will turn you over my knee and spank you one of these days. Making stupid ass comments like that. Gee, many Christmas. Yeah, you're going to make me, Ramen. You're going to make me pull out an article yet. Okay. I know I'm 20 minutes in already. Hadn't talked about the main story, the only story I've got on my thumbnail. But that article literally popped up like a minute or so before I went live. So let's go to the thumbnail. Ramen. Let's go to the thumbnailed article before Ramen gets this stream really off the tracks. The Supreme Court's major questions doctrine is a threat to democracy. Okay. The major questions doctrine, cited to invalidate student loan forgiveness, empowers the conservative Supreme Court. How about just empowers the Supreme Court? It doesn't matter which political leanings is in the forefront at the time. It's the Supreme Court. It is a doctrine that the Supreme Court has had for a very long time. But who's this guy? Harry Blaine. To veto any executive action with broad social impact. That's because it is unconstitutional. He is a president, not a king. He can't just do executive actions and change the country. He doesn't have that power. He doesn't have that authority. That is not something that was meant by that seat, was not meant by the Constitution. Its goal was to undermine the government's ability to function and aid average people. Well, that's because that's not the government's function to aid average people. You are asking about having a socialist government. It's not the government's job to aid you. Well, it wasn't the government's job to aid you. Not the federal government's. State government, local governments, yes, possibly, but not the federal government's. On June 30th, the Supreme Court invalidated Biden's administration's student loan forgiveness program, which promised to wipe $10,000 off the debt of borrowers earning less than $125,000 per year and $20,000 off the debt of Pell Grant recipients, and in a total around $430 billion. Okay. So once again, that money has already been spent. That money was collected and gathered from the taxpayer. The federal government does not earn this money. They take this money from us, the taxpayer, the average Joe. You know what, up here? The average people. That's where the government gets that money. And the government, since Obama stepped in, took over student loan program. Remember, it used to be ran by Sally Mae. Quasi-governmental organization, but it's still only quasi-governmental. Then Obama stepped in and took over all of it. But student loans are still student loans. Somebody signed for that loan. Somebody went asking for that money. Somebody went and signed paperwork saying they would repay that money. Somebody went and, well, used that money supposedly for an education. Supposedly. While the primary victims of the Supreme Court's decision are debtors, another long-term danger stems from the reasoning behind the decision. They're not victims. These people are not victims. They're debtors. They owe the money. They willingly borrowed the money. Then they went and took classes in college that wasn't going to pay them enough to earn enough money. You know, they took classes to get degrees in fields that there was not a guaranteed income large enough to pay for that debt. Now, some people seem to think it's the college's fault. Where I think it's the college's fault in requiring people to take courses based on gender, based on race, you know. Oh, everybody has to take this women's class. Everybody has to take this race class. Everybody has to take this class. You know, all these left-wing courses. And if the college requires you to take that class in order to get a degree through that college, that's money spent. So you spend the first 2 years tuition, $100,000 on classes that don't mean squat. They're nothing but indoctrination. That's where I fault the colleges. And I also fault the government because they've got these, they've allowed the Title IX and other uh, directives to go too far. But if the colleges weren't requiring these classes, the kids could use that money to take classes that actually meant something. But anyway, the Biden program was unlawful according to the courts because the 2003 Higher Education Relief Opportunities for Students Act, which authorized the Secretary of Education to waive or modify student debt obligations during a national emergency, could not possibly have authorized debt cancellation on this scale. If the Congress had wanted to permit something so vast and sweeping, it would have said so explicitly. Exactly. The letter of the law. Not what you wish the law to read, not what you hope the law would read, but the letter of the law as passed by Congress and signed into law by the president. All right. There's a lot of things, a lot of laws that I wish I could read into them what I want to read into them. But I wish the courts would read into them differently beyond what they explicitly say. But that's not the way our system works. We all know that. It's common sense. You're taught that in junior high and high school. You don't have to go to college to get taught that. Well, wait a minute. Let me back up, Rebecca. I didn't have to go to college to be taught that in school. All right. Today's kids, what they're graduating out of the past 10, 15 years, I don't know. I saw a video yesterday. It man on the street interviews asking people what did the Declaration of Independence do? And the answers just absolutely amazed me. The number of people who said the Declaration of Independence freed the slaves was amazing. Then there was the others who they got it right, yeah, declared independence, but they couldn't tell you where it was from. Some of them actually did say Great Britain or the United Kingdom. There's a few who actually said that, but there's so many that didn't know. That is junior high, if not elementary school stuff when I went to school. Let's see. Okay, Badger. I only narrowly avoid the student loan death squads when they forced everyone in my town to take a loan by hiding in the woods. I can still hear the screams of those who refused. Oh, yeah, you're right. We all got forced to take them student loans. This idea, this idea that Congress does not hide elephants in mouse holes is called the major questions doctrine. on its face is consistent with Supreme Court precedents. Ooh, right there. End of conversation right then and there. End of conversation. It is consistent with Supreme Court precedent. In reality, it empowers Supreme Court and its conservative majority to veto the rare executive actions that actually have social impact. So what you're saying is you want a president to have authoritarian powers. That's what this man's wanting. What's his name again? Harry Blaine. Harry Blaine wants a president to be a dictator, to be an authoritarian. He can sit there and demand, make up whatever he wants to make up, as long as it has a broad social impact. And he agrees with it, of course. Getting the federal government to do anything useful is hard enough at its best times, as it should be. As it should be. We don't want a federal government moving willy nilly. Look what happens when they do. Excuse me there. Look what happens when the federal government can just move willy nilly. Look at all the money they spent, they blew over the past 3 years. They all got on this train. Trillions of dollars blown, spent. Thanks to the major questions doctrine, it's about to get a lot harder. Great. I like it when the federal government can't move very fast. Yeah, Badger. Yeah, I'm sure he had the same that same thing. That he wants the president to have dictatorial powers. It is far from surprising to see the Biden administration lose on the student loans case known as Biden versus Nebraska. The well-known conservative leanings of the Supreme Court aside, both Biden and other senior Democrats set themselves up for failure by repeatedly stating the president lacked authority to cancel student debt because he didn't. And I will curse the day, I will forever curse the Republicans when they did not take Obama to court over DACA. Because Obama admitted time and time and time and time again, if I remember right, at least 20 times. So it was probably may have been only 10, but I think it was 20. He stood there and said he did not have the authority to do what he did when he did DACA. And I wish, and I will curse the Republicans for not taking him to court over that and getting DACA overthrown. Stating the president lacked the authority to cancel student debt not very long before he decided he could in August 2022. For example, Chief Justice John Roberts, who wrote the Biden versus Nebraska opinion, favorably quoted then Speaker Nancy Pelosi's remarks from July 2021. People who think the President of the United States has that power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress. That's right. It has to be an act of Congress. The slow rollout of the plan itself also gave conservative legal activists ample time to plot their attack. With the aid of the Democratic Party incompetence, the Supreme Court's conservative majority developed several arguments for striking down the debt relief plan. And that's probably Dar jumped in. Yes, it was. Good morning, sir.
Ahoy.
And
What's going on?
My blood pressure is rising, as is my voice.
Nice.
This guy, Mr. Harry Blaine. Let me review one more time, make sure I'm right. Yes, Harry Blaine. He wants a dictatorial, authoritarian president.
Of course he does.
And he is the major questions doctrine, which basically is that if it's not written in the law, you don't have the power.
Okay, makes sense.
And he's upset that the Supreme Court overturned the Biden's student loan cancellation plan.
Yeah.
And he's saying that sets a dangerous precedent. Well, no, as he fully admits, and he's really upset as a conservative court, and that the president should have the power to make, at his own will, policies that have a broad social impact.
He says that now, but if somebody else was in the White House, he wouldn't be saying that.
I'm sure that he wasn't this upset. I don't remember him being this upset when the Supreme Court kicked some of Donald Trump's stuff to the side, like when Trump tried to cancel DACA.
Yeah.
And that would have had a broad social impact.
Yes, it would have. But so the thing too, well, never mind. I'm not going to get into it.
So. No, it's, like I said, he wants a communist or socialist dictatorship or authoritarian as a president here. Somebody who does what he agrees with.
Yeah, as long as it's something he agrees with, then that's fine. But when it's something he doesn't agree with, and that's the problem. A lot of people like the idea of the tyranny and all that, as long as it's what they agree with, right?
Right.
And that's what's going to get us into trouble. Is the fact that, as long as it's something I agree with, then we can do it, right? And that's what's going to get us in trouble.
Yep. We've got a lot of problems here if this guy would get his way.
Well, if this guy and other people like him get their way, we're in a lot of trouble.
And let's see here. All right. As the question here is not whether something should be done, Roberts wrote, is who has the authority to do it.
Yeah.
The only person, first of all, it's Obama and the Democratic Congress got rid of Sally Bay and took over as primary loan guarantor for student loans.
Right.
Which was a huge ass mistake.
Yeah, it was.
All right. Yeah, we're going to be able to make loans so much more available to people. Well, when you start handing out money to more people and you're lowering your standards for loaning out that money, lowering the requirements, for being able to get that money, then you are increasing the odds that you're never going to get paid back.
Yeah, and not only that, but when you do that, you also raise the cost of what you're getting the loans for. So that's the other side of that coin. Because you notice after the federal government took over student loans, the price of college just shot way the hell up
That's right.
really quick.
Because the colleges said, "Oh wow, with the government guaranteeing the loans, using the taxpayers to pay back to pay back these loans,
Yeah, we'll
we
charge
can
more.
it's a seller's market."
Yeah, exactly. And and that just proves the old adage that correct. If you want to make something less efficient, more expensive, let the government manage it.
Yep. Through its broad interpretation of the HEROES Act, he asserted the executive was seizing the power of the legislature. The HEROES Act allowed the president, through the Secretary of Education, to waive or modify student obligations during a national emergency. But the student loan forgiveness plans, Roberts said with derision. Really? How could he say that with derision when he's writing it down?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Had modified had modified the side provisions of the HEROES Act only in the same sense that the French Revolution modified the status of the French nobility. Besides, Roberts added, the plan announced just a few weeks before Biden stated the pandemic was over, undermining the plan's COVID-19 emergency rationale. Very true. Because you don't say we're in the middle of emergency, therefore I'm going to do this. Then 2 days later, okay, the emergency's over.
Yeah.
No, that's a bit, you know, it doesn't take a genius to spot that. The overarching problem, according to the six conservative justices, the man does nothing but, label everybody as label people he doesn't like as conservative.
Yeah. Well.
For whom Roberts wrote, was the cancellation of the 430 billion in debt was a decision of such magnitude and consequence and a matter of such earnest and profound debate across the country. It must rest with Congress itself or an agency acting pursuant to a clear delegation from Congress. If Congress wanted such bold executive action, it would have said so explicitly. If it's not in the law, it's not in the law. And I wish more courts would stick to that. Stick to
Yes.
what's in the letter in the law, not what they wish was in the law.
Then you wouldn't have activist judges. And you see, and that's part of the problem. And this is one of the things that just pisses me off royally, especially when I watch, you know, dumbasses on TV. Is the thing of it is Congress writes the laws. All right.
Right.
It's up to the executive branch and that to enforce those laws, and it's up to the judicial branch to say if it's constitutional or not, right? They're not supposed to be working in concert with each other. They are checks and balances. That's the reason why we have three branches.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, those judges are working in direct directly with the executive branch to get shit they want done.
And when you look at the judges this administration has nominated, and you go through their hearings, I've played y'all some of the hearings.
Yeah.
but I haven't played you all of them. Uh, Good God, some of these people. And I think in their preparation, now it's got to be in their preparation for them, is they're taught how to word salad it for their
Yeah.
5 minutes, just to chew up time. They're, starting off with, thank you, Senator, for such a wonderful question. I really do appreciate that you had the intelligence and the insight to ask me such a question that
Yep.
is going to be very difficult for me to answer. Right there, just blown 30 seconds to a minute of that senator's 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's not like they were doing that on purpose or anything. Come on.
Right.
And it's not like they're being least bit condescending either.
No, it's not.
You know,
Okay. If
because they're
Congress,
judges, they're
it says
smarter than
so.
us.
Roberts referred to his logic as the major questions doctrine, a term first used by the Supreme Court in last term's West Virginia versus Environmental Protection Agency decision, but articulated differently in prior cases. The shared intuition behind these cases, Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote in her Biden versus Nebraska concurrence, is that a reasonable speaker would not understand Congress to confer an unusual form of authority to the executive office without saying more. Exactly. Earlier in the article, they referred to it as hiding an elephant in a mouse hole. Yeah. Congress says, despite the fact that Congress, for the past 100 years, has given up more and more of its authority to the executive office with all the creation of all these alphabet soup agencies. And once that agency is created, it goes to work for the president. And then the president sits there and signs an EO telling these agencies what they will and won't do. And Congress, short of passing another law, can't stop that from happening because the president's not going to sign a law that takes away his power. In both Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett's opinions, discussions of pragmatism and Supreme Court precedents are much more prominent than the discussions of the Constitution's original meaning. If we went back to the Constitution as it is written and the 22 amendments as they were written, exactly as they were written, and using nothing but the discussions that were revolving around the passing of the uh, amendments at that time, such as the 14th Amendment. I mean, y'all have heard me say this before. If we went by the 14th Amendment as it was written, as it was proposed, and what the discussions around it were at its time, and what this purpose was, children of people born who have entered the country illegally would not be considered American citizens.
This is true.
You could only gain citizenship through having at least one parent being an American citizen. That's it. That's the only way it would happen. But we let the courts get in there and flip flop things around. And Congress should have taken steps when back in the day. A lot of should have, would haves, and could haves. You know?
Yeah.
But with this guy, okay, what's he saying is the danger here? On the other hand, an honest originalist could justifiably feel uncomfortable with the major questions doctrine. Really? Why? Although the framers of the Constitution deliberately vested all legislative powers in the Congress, not the executive, it is debatable at best to conclude the judiciary was supposed to police congressional delegations to the executive when the executive acted on matters of earnest, profound debate. Now, the Mulberry decision, all right, that did expand, but it was I honestly believe it was a logical expansion on the power of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
All right. And that's where they said they were the final voice on what is and isn't constitutional. And it's been a long time since I've done a whole lot of reading on it, so I don't want to get,
No, that's fine. That's fine.
at this point, I'm not exactly comfortable in debating it because I need to refresh my memory on a lot of things dealing with it.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to debate you on it. I'm just
because it's probably been 10, 15 years since I've read anything on it. But anyway. Now, see, indeed, the original purpose of originalism was supposedly to cut the judiciary down to the modest role. The modest role, as in to stop expanding upon beyond what was actually written in the legislature. Follow the law as it was written, not as you wish it was written. Again, the activist courts.
Yeah, see, and that's the whole point.
And the courts of the 70s and 80s were pretty left wing leaning.
Yeah, that's where the whole judicial activism thing, that's where it really got. I mean, it's been around for a while. Don't get me wrong. It's been around for a while, but that's where it really started rearing its ugly head.
Well, in the 70s and 80s, that's where you had the law school graduates from the 60s.
Yep.
All right. During the 60s, they finally, the law school graduates, they became lawyers and judges and such, and then they're getting, nominated up into the Court of Appeals and up the food chain. And the 60s was the 60s. You had all these left-wing judges coming in, and the ones taught by, that's where communism was really being pushed. Socialism was really being pushed in the colleges, especially in the law schools. So that is why originalism came in. And let me go ahead and post a link to this article. Because I know I'm chewing up a lot of time on this, but this article really pissed me off. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Good, Sean and Leslie, I didn't see y'all come in because I was over reading the article. Good afternoon.
Hey, guys.
Or good morning to you. It's afternoons, evenings, whatever.
Good appropriate time of the day to you.
Right, thank you.
Folks. Because remember, our British folks, it's their evening.
Yeah. The only British one I know of is Fury.
Well, yeah, Fury's out there. Then we got, people from the West Coast where it's still pretty early in the morning. And then we have folks on the East Coast where it's almost afternoon. And then, you know, of course, if we have people listening to us in the future, it could be in the middle of the night, you know, because they have insomnia or whatever. It could be, you know, whatever the case may be. Might have some folks that work the, you know, swing shift that listen to this in the future. So yeah,
Yeah,
whatever
listen
the
to
case
it.
may be. Appropriate time of day is a good way of saying it.
Yep. Sean, how is paying off a student debt an emergency for that act? You know, he would have had more of a chance of getting that through 6 months into it.
Yeah, when COVID lockdowns were still raging and all these emergency powers were
Right.
being thrown around, even though that's extremely unconstitutional and should never have happened. But you know, that's beside the
He,
point.
but there at the end when he announces it and then 2 weeks later announces the end of the pandemic, officially ends the pandemic. We all knew the pandemic was over long before then
Yeah,
because the whole country pretty much gone back to normality a couple of months earlier. So, yeah, it's just the official end of the pandemic. So that, again, I'm not going to go into more of this. I've read pretty much everything I wanted to read out of this article. Um, really like that. I mean, he raises some interesting questions in his thing in this latter part of it because as you can see, it is quite a lengthy article.
yes.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're not going to read the whole thing because that would
Right.
just.
I mean, it is his closing paragraph here. If the Supreme Court is willing to make it this easy for states to sue the federal government, well, why should not the states have it easy to sue the federal government?
It should be very easy for the states to sue that, you know, and this is me personally. I'm sure there's going to be folks that disagree with me. But in my humble opinion, it should be very easy for the states to bring a suit against the federal government because that is what will keep the federal government in check from, you know, violating states' rights. And see, and you know, that's something that states' rights, right, are very important. And the part of the problem is because so many people have used, well, the Civil War was about states' rights, man. And what that's done is given states' rights a bad name. So people associate that with the wrong, incorrectly. And yeah, the state should be able to sue the federal government at any time. Now, I'm going to say this a little differently. Instead of, you know, they should be able to sue the federal government at will, I'm saying they should be able to bring legal action, um, because when the federal government makes a rule that overwrites the state's rights, um, then the states need some sort of mechanism to fight back against that, right? And I'd rather
Yes.
see them do it legally in a legal manner than I would in, you know, some other sort of manner. And not necessarily a lawsuit, but you know, some sort of, um, you know, a formal appeal process, and maybe even, yeah, maybe even, um, you know, taking it to court. So that's just my thought process, and I know there's going to be people that disagree with me, but that's all right. I don't. You can disagree.
Uh, so if the Supreme Court is willing to make it this easy for the states to sue the federal government, which we agree should be very easy, then the major questions doctrine will be coming soon to a courtroom near you. More menacingly, conservative legal activists will accelerate towards their long-standing goal of dismantling the administrative state.
Yes.
The
And
administ-
so, what's wrong with dismantling the administrative state?
because it is a dictatorial, authoritarian uh, state, which he absolutely loves because it is extremely progressive and pushing the liberal line. It's filled with his buddies.
And see, this is just the one more step towards one party rule.
Yes.
Is exactly. And Sean, I get what you're saying. You're right. That doesn't qualify as an emergency. There's if you are of legal age and you sign a legal document saying you're going to borrow this money, you should have to pay that back, plain and simple. Totally agree with you. Um,
My mortgage payments didn't stop.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. My electric bill didn't stop. My grocery bill didn't stop. My putting gas in my vehicle didn't stop, having to pay for that. None of my other bills stopped. So why should my credit card bills didn't stop? So why should a student loan stop? Why should there be forgiveness of a student loan?
Now, I will tell you, for me personally, because as soon as they said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to stop the interest on your student loans." So, what myself and my son, because I still had student loans, um, and my son, what we did is we took every bit of extra money that we had and we applied it to our student loans. And guess what?
Man, that when you're applying that much money against the principal only and none of it towards the interest, that really paid a hell of your debt down, didn't it?
Well, we both managed to pay off our student loans during that time, which meant there was a few things I had to go without
Right.
to get it done, but it was like, dude, man, those things are paid off.
And now you've got even more money than what the little bit of money things you had to give up on.
Exactly. So, and that all goes, so now all my extra money goes towards my retirement fund
Yep.
because hopefully in 6 to 8 years from now, I can retire.
Yeah, my wife just got her IRA uh, letter in,
Yeah.
and she's been putting into it now for the past 30 years.
Wish I had been doing it that long, but
And well, when she first started working for this company, and they offered her an IRA, told her, yeah, max it out, put in the maximum that you can. And it was one of these deals where they say, okay, what kind, diversify the stocks. Don't just diversify everything. Yeah, it's a little bit lower yield, but the losses, it saves you from heavy losses.
yeah.
And we went and talked to a financial advisor. Yada yada yada. I paid him a couple $100 for an hour of his time. But uh, it's with what's sitting in her IRA, because we both totally forgot about it. At least, yeah, I mean, I know I totally forgot about it, and I think she was surprised when she got that statement in. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, if she had to she could live off of that for at least a decade, budgeting her money wisely, with no other income. She could live off of her IRA.
Yep.
So, which is a good thing, you know, because obviously she'll have other income streams besides that. But that's, besides the point. Um, yeah, I, I, I like personally, again, and it could be simply because I'm conservative. I like the role that the current courts are taking, at least the Supreme Court. Um, some things I don't think they've gone strong enough on. Right now, I wish they would have been bolder in some of their Second Amendment rulings.
Yes.
I wish they'd been bolder in them, but you know, sometimes you got to be happy with what you get. You got to be happy with that half loaf, even though you didn't get the full. You know,
Yep.
but okay, yeah, I did post that link, and Sean, again, when they shut down the entire country, that did qualify as that could have gotten away with qualifying as an emergency because it wasn't just this country, but it was the entire world shut down there for a year or 2 years. So, all right, let's see here. Where's that story here? Da, 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 da. That's not it. Okay, you heard about that fight in Alabama along the river park or riverfront
Oh,
park.
yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Now, I sort of followed that from the time the video was released. All right. And long story short, these guys in a paddle boat pulled up to a dock that was, or guys in a smaller boat pulled up to a dock that was reserved for a paddle boat.
Yep.
And a black guard went up to the guys in the boat, and all the guys in the boat were white, told them they had to move their boat because the paddle boat was coming in. And they ignored him. Words were said, one thing led to another. Next thing you know, there's a fight. Well, a bunch of people saw a black guy being attacked by a bunch of white guys. A bunch of black guys got involved. And one kid, 16-year-old by the name of Aaron, jumped off of a boat, swam over to help to get involved in it. And there are buku video out there if you want to go see them. Some of the fighting was rather comical. Some of it looked rather serious. But there are the Alabama. Now, I'm on the side of the guy of the black guy here, the guard. Those guys in the boat that were told to move should have moved. End of conversation. They weren't supposed to be there.
Right. He was just doing his job.
Exactly. He was doing his job. Unfortunately, though, because it's turned into a huge ass brawl, a lot of people are going to jail and they're signing out warrants. They got 4 warrants, last I heard, already, but they are still reviewing the videotapes that are available, pulling them off of social media as they go up, and trying to track down people who did it.
I know there was a lot of parody videos made of it.
Yeah, especially people with folding chairs.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's going to need to be some, and of course, it's becoming racial.
Yep.
These white guys jumped a black guy. I think it was more these white guys jumped a guard. I think they would have jumped him even if he'd been white.
Yeah. Because they didn't want to. They
The
didn't want
guys
to
in the
be told what to
pontoon
do.
boat didn't want to move.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do what they were told to do. So, but the internet will do the internet, and the racists are taking it
Yep.
over. So the long and short of that brawl, though, my personal opinion, I don't think it was racist.
No, I think
Uh,
they were just drunk and being stupid.
I don't think it was racial in nature as much as it was uh, four guys out on a boat decided that they weren't going to listen to the rules.
Yep.
So we we can all have that. All right. Oh, you know who Jake Tapper is from CNN?
Yep.
All right. Did you know he wrote a book?
Nope.
Yes, he did. Hoping to make lots of money as a.
Yeah, I know I'm not going to buy it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, a lot of people feel that way. CNN anchor, star anchor, Jake Tapper may be realizing his popularity is dwindling with viewers as his latest novel, All the Demons Are Here, sold fewer than 5,000 copies its first week on the market. Now, if I wrote a book and I put it out there on the market, I'd be happy as hell if I sold 5,000 copies.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. But then I'm not a huge media star, news star that gets quoted across the country on CNN, the name of news. Despite the constant promotion from celebrities and aggressive marketing campaign, the book has recorded dismal sales. Radar Online described the sales as shockingly low. Tapper, who hosts The Lead with Jake Tapper on CNN, has had better luck in the past. His first novel, probably The Hellfire Club, which I'd never heard of,
No.
published in 2018, reached number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list for hardcover fiction. So, all right. Recent years, multiple political books generated very low sales. Democratic Rep. Cory Bush published a political memoir in 2022, required The Forerunner, the story of pain and perseverance in America. It sold 1,000 copies. Oh, Cory Bush. Mm-mm-mm. Jill Biden's autobiography, or biography of Jill Biden, only sold 250 copies. They couldn't get the Chinese to buy more than 250 copies.
Yep.
The DNC didn't chip in to buy more than 250 copies. Wow. Oh, it's a thriller. Oh, okay. Anyway, poor Jake. I feel sorry for him. Not. Now, there was a time when I did actually appreciate Jake Tapper on the news. Uh, 8, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, he seemed then to be more of a moderate, less less biased in his reporting,
Yeah.
and he has just gotten he has just gotten way too far off.
Yeah.
Again,
Got way too carried away.
that's just my opinion. So, but if you want to help poor Jake out, his uh, thriller, All the Demons Are Here, it's available on Kindle. Uh,
I'm not going to help him out. I think he's fine without me.
okay, yeah, let's see here. What is it selling for? If you want a hard copy, it's $20 at Walmart. It's $8 through ebooks. Oh wow! Somebody wants $38 for it on eBay.
Huh.
Must be a signed copy.
Yeah.
So, oh, you get it on uh, oh, that's not. Oh, there are days I absolutely hate um, Amazon.
Yeah. Well, it goes
You know,
for
there.
all of us.
Okay, here you go. You get it for $6 on your Kindle.
I
It's
don't
still
want it, so
it's still $20 if you want the hard copy.
don't really care because
So
I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to read it.
yeah, and if is it, oh, and all it's available on Audible too. Ooh,
Oh, there you go. Now you can listen to it. Yeah.
not
Knock yourself out. You have fun with
that.
that.
Not going to do that. Okay. Ah, Martina Navratilova has stepped in. All right, let's get back. Okay, let's go to uh, Riley Gaines and this idiot who Leah Thomas. Of
Yeah.
this is a story that's not going to go away. It's just not. Now, Riley Gaines made some comments that Mr. Thomas is amply endowed.
Okay.
I
So, and
think
I
she
care
and
about this. Why?
I think she said something that he's proportional to his 6'4" frame. I didn't realize the guy was that tall, six
Yeah.
foot four.
Yeah. If you ever seen him in the pictures next to the other swimmers, you would see that.
So, and she said that is rather. Uh, well, let's pull up the story. And that is rather. She she had to really try hard to refrain from looking at his crotch in the locker room. Well, some feminists decide to step in and bash. You know, I it's fun watching, not fun, but it's ironic watching the liberal feminists attacking a woman who's upset about having a person with a intact penis naked in her dressing room. It just doesn't make sense. You know, it's
Yeah. Because then wasn't all the part of the feminism thing was to keep men out of female spaces and all that.
right. I mean,
And
that's
now,
why. That's why gyms had to start having women only sessions where no men were allowed in the gyms,
Yeah.
or women only swimming hours. Only women were allowed to use the swimming pools. So
Yeah, it seems kind of defeating the purpose, but it's whatever.
Katie Montgomery, who is a feminist and an LGBT, oh, they left off the queue, rights advocate, according to her website, slammed Gaines for the comment and urged her to simply not look at other people's genitals in the locker room. Uh, you know, when I was in locker rooms in high school and throughout the military career and such, it's rather easy for me not to look at other men's genitals, because it was just nothing there of interest to me. But you put a naked woman in that locker room with me or in that shower facility with me. All right. Okay.
Oh hell yeah, I'm staring.
You know, uh, I'm going to be looking at naked. I will be looking at her genital with no problem. Uh, you know, so don't. Uh, if it's something that you're not wanting to see, that's not supposed to be there, and it's there, you're going to look at it.
Hell yeah.
I've managed to refrain from looking at the genitals of every single person I've ever been in a changing room with. I didn't realize it was a challenge for some. How many times, Miss Montgomery, have you been in a changing room with a man you didn't know that you weren't intimate with, and having him looking at you naked and you looking at him and you having the ability to look at him naked? How many times in your life has that happened? But anyway,
Inquiring
Martina,
minds want to know.
right, Martina Navratilova stepped in. This prompted a response from 18 Grand Slam singles champion, who didn't hold back with her reply. She thought Montgomery's tweet was effing irresponsible and wondered if she would advise an innocent 10-year-old girl in the locker room to do the same. Well, good for you. Tell that to a 10-year-old girl in the locker room, too. Just don't look, and hopefully that person won't look at you either. How effing irresponsible is this? I'm not a big fan. I've never been a big fan of Navratilova. Uh, I've just never been nothing. I've just never been a fan. I've been ambivalent about her. Couldn't care one way or not, or the less. She's a person. She has her opinions. I know I don't agree with most of them, but you know, never really cared one way or another about her. She has no impact on my life. You know, Navratilova has always been vocal about transgendered athletes, most recently praising the World Aquatics decision for an open category for transgender athletes. She had previously said that trans athletes just need to compete in the category based on their biological sex, not based on self ID.
Yeah.
And she's absolutely right about that.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. We, just because I disagree with somebody on politics and that sort of thing does not mean I cannot find agreement with them on social issues.
Right.
And doesn't mean that I'm going to become a supporter of this person or anything like that. But it just means that they're, because, with everybody, no matter how their thing is, um, no matter what their thing, you can always find something that um, you can always find something that you agree on.
Right.
So yeah. So as far as that goes, that's
Now that this comment by her, come on, USTA, United States Tennis Association. Women's tennis is not for failed male athletes, whatever age. This is a
this is
right and
true.
not fair. Would this be allowed in U.S. Open this month just with self ID? I don't think so. I she's absolutely right. You know. But anyway, uh, feminists attacking somebody because they feminists attacking another woman because of a penis being because that woman doesn't agree with having a penis in the locker room with her when she's naked. Clown world
Yeah.
lives.
What a seriously screwed up world we're living in.
Okay. Uh, let's see here. What is this? Minnesota? Oh, Michigan. Yeah, Michigan has been in the news for a lot here lately. I
That's
mean,
because their governor's a joke.
well, not just their governor, but other parts of their government. And like here, and here's a judge. I rightly agree. This guy should not have been involved in this case. A black defendant has received a new trial in Michigan court after the district judge, who is white, said the defendant looks like a criminal. The Washington Post reported in a 3-0 decision the appeals court panel judges ruled to overturn a 2021 drug conviction and decade-long prison sentence that he was serving on the matter and an opportunity to seek a new trial. The panel also ruled the previous remarks made by the district judge, Mr. Murphy, in January 2020 hearing could be understood to demonstrate clear prejudgment of Ligon's guilt. This guy looks like a criminal to me, Murphy said of Liggins. This is what criminals do.
You know,
The, even though the judge came back later and apologized for making the statement and such, he should have recused himself right then and there. Now, was the guy dealing heroin? Was the guy guilty of the crimes? Most likely. But when the judge is sitting there making comments like that, you should know you're going to get overturned. You've opened your mouth, you said something stupid, and it should be over and done with. So, judges, learn your place. That's real simple.
not gonna happen.
Uh, and of course, you know, We had the Nebraska versus Biden case
Yeah.
that, for student loans. Well, Nebraska's got a college there that University of Nebraska is just a little bit behind the times when it comes to Supreme Court rulings. Black only residency program earns University of Nebraska a civil rights complaint. One of the things I was taught very early when I started getting involved in politics and this kind of nonsense is always, if they put in a descriptor, black, white, male, female, boy, girl, husband, wife, switch it to the polar opposite and see and check what your reaction to that would be.
Yeah. That's a good way to do it.
And if you feel that it's right to have that under both situations, then chances are good you're going to be standing free and clear. But if it sounds good for one but not in the other, then chances are good you're doing something wrong. The University of Nebraska was hit with a federal civil rights complaint on Monday for sponsoring a residence program for black filmmakers. The complaint filed by Equal Protection Project, a nonprofit legal organization, alleged that the Black Public Media Residency Program at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln illegally discriminated on the basis of race and requested the Department of Ed to launch a federal civil rights investigation into the school. In its name, it's discriminatory. If you would not offer a white public media residency program,
Kind of doing it wrong.
then you're making a mistake. And if you are offering a white residency program, then why offer a white or black? Just make it a residency program. Remove that distinction altogether. Remove that requirement altogether. And considering what the Supreme Court just ruled on affirmative action, you'd think the University of Nebraska would have gotten the memo. It's not like that ruling was not broadcasted and discussed here, across the entire country, loud and clear. It's not like it was never in the news.
Yeah.
I mean, even us dummies down here in Florida knew about it. I got a question for you.
Sure, I was going.
I was going, and this goes to this thing here about black owned. All right. I was looking at a product that I wanted to buy.
Yeah.
And one of the suppliers had big old stickers on it saying woman LGBTQ owned and operated.
Yeah.
I walked out of the store and didn't buy that particular product.
Okay.
I went to another store and bought a product by a different company.
Yeah.
Now, I would do this. I've done the same thing when it says minority owned. I've done the same thing, but you and I even get I get a little. Uh, I I've even done it for people that brag about being veteran owned.
Yeah.
All right, I don't care who owns the business. If you want, well, let me rephrase this. If you want me to give you my money for your product, say American owned and operated. That is the way to get my money. Be American owned and operated. Because the minute you start putting on there woman owned, LGBTQ owned, minority owned, black woman owned, I don't want to buy your product from you. That's telling me you want me to be more concerned about who owns the business than how good of a product you're putting out there. You want me to give you my money because of who owns it, not because of how good your product is. What do you think?
Um. Well, I do go out of my way to shop locally owned as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really don't care if it's black owned, white owned, purple owned, whatever the case may be. I really don't give a crap about that. Now, if they are trying to force an agenda I don't agree with, then yeah, I go out of my way not to buy their product. But so, and then, but the thing of it is too, is like, if they're just selling general merchandise by different manufacturers, I don't really give a crap. But um, like we do have some like independent farmers and ranchers in my area that sell meat and stuff like that. You know, I tend to go with the veteran-owned people just because being fellow vet, I'm just
Right.
going to support my folks.
Well,
But
veteran owned doesn't bother me as much as white owned or woman or black owned, woman owned, minority owned. All right, because veteran, that's people who put themselves out there to do something for
yeah,
the
just
country.
because like we have this one place. It's a little boutique shop, and they make really good product. I've been there several times, and I bought some of their stuff. And it wasn't until much later in life, much later down the road, that I found out it was a black lady that owned the place. But and then I didn't really care one way or the other. I
Right.
really like, okay, they do baked goods, right? And I just really like their stuff. So,
Uh, Yeah, if you put out a good product, you don't need to advertise your
well,
oppression points
see, that's the
as an
thing.
owner.
They never really advertised it or anything. I just found out later through.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. If you put out a strong product, you don't need to advertise your oppression points because your
Right.
product is going to sell itself for you.
Yeah, word of mouth is going to get it out there.
Right.
So, yeah, that being the case, but yeah, I don't. I'm not like some people that scour the internet and all this and look to see who owns, whatever. Um, because a lot of, like I said, I prefer to locally owned businesses, right? Small
Right.
mom and pop, locally owned spots, and and um, and I really don't care who owns it so much. But now, like if I was to walk into like say, a little mom and pop restaurant and there's like all the you know, flags and stuff up and all that, I'm gonna like, I'm out, just because for one, I don't need that pressure and I don't need people looking at me and, you know,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. Just don't really care enough about
If the
their issue.
it's not conducive to your digestive system.
Right. Now, there is a little mom and pop restaurant here, a little breakfast place, right? Like to go every now and again. And on the front counter, there's a small American flag there, and then in one little corner of the restaurant up on the wall is a tribute to somebody that is a member of their family that has passed on. And but other than that, it's pretty much the nondescript and that sort of
Right.
thing. So that I don't really care so much about. Then there's another place here that it's a Greek-owned place, so they do the Greek Orthodox Church and that. So they do when they greet you, they um, because their holidays and stuff are slightly different than
Right.
ours. So they do greet you with like, well, have a, you know, happy Easter or whatever, the case may be, because they're Greek Orthodox. That I see. I really don't care too much about that. I mean, that's their thing, and they're welcome to it. They're not
Hmm.
forcing it on me or anything. And it's just like a friend of mine who's Jewish, right? Um, every year there's several of us. We get together Christmas morning, and we go on a 10-mile run. And this is kind of our, Christmas morning tradition. We're out there, you know, butt dark 30 and it's cold, and we're doing this run. And I always greet him with a Merry Christmas, and he always says Happy Hanukkah to me.
Right.
No issues, right? So that's kind of how I feel about the Greek place. They greet me with their thing, and I greet with my thing back, and we're everybody's okay with it, so no issue. So that's kind of how I look at it. If a business is, um, I'm more likely to, instead of going to a big chain place, I'm more likely to support a local mom and pop. Now, if they're overtly trying to throw stuff in my face, yeah, I'm gonna walk out. Heck with you. But if they're not being overt about it, then yeah, I don't really care what their politics or anything else is, and it's none of my business. That's
Right.
how I look at it. So that was a long way of saying I don't. Yeah, kind of a long way around it, but yeah, we got there.
Okay. And I got a new sub today,
Oh yeah,
this morning.
nice.
So welcome. I accidentally closed the tag, so I don't remember your name.
Hey,
So
Snuggy Bear, how you doing, buddy?
if if you'd put yourself up in the chat, say hi so we can welcome you, I'd appreciate it. Got the little thing up in the corner announcing the new sub, and and let's see here. The I was trying to find anyway. Uh, teachers, teacher unions they've always bothered me, and when well, Massachusetts is about to get more stupid. Let's just put it this way. Let me show you the article here.
Well, my thing is, I've always been a little weirded out by any government thing having a union. So
All right. The Massachusetts Teachers Union Board of Directors voted unanimously Sunday to throw its weight behind a ballot measure to end standardized testing currently required for students to graduate. Instead, students will be able to graduate if they completed the coursework that meets the state's academic standards. So they don't want them to pass a test or a series of tests to graduate.
And your problem with this is what?
They just want them to have done, supposedly completed the coursework.
Okay. And again, your problem with this is what?
The way teachers grade, or you can't flunk you can't give an F, you can't give a D. The lowest grade you can give is a C. If they put their name on it, they get a C. That's my problem with it. How do you know that these kids actually know what they're supposed to have been taught unless they take a test on it? A test that is not graded by the teacher that has been told or does not believe in giving passing grades to everybody.
And how do you know that? So, all right.
How do you know that they're not? I mean,
Okay.
it's a common thing amongst teachers now. It's been a common thing for quite a while. I don't fail my students. I bump this student's grade up because of their race or because of their gender. So how do you know that these kids are actually learning what what they're supposed to be learning unless you give them a test on it?
I'm of a different school of thought. I am not a big fan. I am not a proponent of standardized testing. And the reason I'm not a proponent of standardized testing is what ends up happening is you get teachers that are teaching to the test. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're preparing the kids to pass the test, and that's about all the kid's going to learn. So that's part of it. Another part of it.
And what's wrong with that? If the teachers are teaching the kids what they're supposed to be teaching them, then they're teaching them to take the test.
They're just teaching them what's on the test, right? Which
All
is
right,
fine.
I don't know what kind of tests, the state tests I'm familiar with. All right. It wasn't every student didn't have the exact same test. Every individual test handed out may have had different questions on it covering the material. So if student, Joe over here may got his first question may have been, what year was the Constitution ratified? While the person sitting next to him, their question is going to be, their first question may be something about the Civil War.
Yeah, see, but again, I'm not a fan of standardized testing. And that's just me personally. So I think, and again, I think there's better ways of testing kids. Not all kids are good test takers, for one.
All right, I will agree with that.
And so that's the other side of it. If they've completed the coursework, you know, and really the best way to assess is if a kid has actually done what it has learned something in school is can they read, write, and think, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at. You know, I think we teach a lot more stuff in schools, and there's a lot more stuff on that standardized testing that's not going to help anybody in the future at all. And I think there's a lot of stuff that they're being taught in schools that not going to help them at all. So that being the case, as long as they graduate or get out of school and they can read, write, and do math, I don't really care past that.
Now, see, I disagree with you. I think that when a kid graduates 12th grade, all right, graduates high school, the 12th grade, they should have a firm understanding of the Constitution and the founding of the country.
Yeah, but they don't
But-
now. So
And, you know, yes, they should be able to read, but they should be able to read at a grade equivalent to the 12th grade, not on a ninth grade level or an eighth grade level. They should be able to read something beyond Harry Potter or Twilight.
yeah, I agree.
Okay, they should be able to read and comprehend at a higher grade level. They should be able to do mathematics at least an algebra level. Not necessarily calculus, but they should be able to do basic algebraic computations. They should have a basic understanding of science and the scientific method.
Yeah, wouldn't disagree with that.
Okay, they should have a a thorough knowledge, not necessarily in depth knowledge, but a thorough knowledge of American history, of the Constitution, and of the legislative process and the duties and of each branch of the government.
See, here's the problem with getting all upset over this stuff. Um, so standardized testing is great and all that. Okay, let's. All right, it's great and all that, but the thing of it is, are you going to rely strictly on the school to teach your kid what they need to know?
We should hold the teachers responsible for teaching according to the state standards.
All right, so if the state changes their standards, are you going to rely strictly on them to make sure your kid knows what they're doing? That is all I'm saying.
No, okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Am I personally going to rely? Hell no. I
No.
don't. I didn't rely it on my son, and I'm not relying it on my grandson.
And so that's the reason why I'm not a big fan of standardized testing, because I don't think those tests are written in such a way that they actually cover all those areas. And I'm not, so this whole thing, this whole article means absolutely nothing to me. And I really don't care
But
one way or the other.
it means a lot to me because you realize the United States, we're not top 10 in education in any category.
No, we're not top 10
We're
in any of it. I
and I
agree.
don't think we're top 20 in any of them.
No,
All right. Our
but we spend more
educational
money per
system
capita than
is
any other country.
failing the kids.
Yeah, it
And it needs
absolutely is.
and it the we as parents and grandparents and citizens need to step in and say, wait a second, you got you guys are doing wrong. You're not teaching basic mathematics. You're not teaching basic reading and comprehensive skills. You're not teaching this. You're not teaching about the government and how when the kids can't even tell you what the Declaration of Independence did. I don't care that they don't know the year. Well, I do care, but when they can't give you the basic information about our country and our type of government and how it works and the founding documents.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop because I have something I got to take care of real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah, I know.
But we can have this discussion in,
Sure.
because I'm not totally disagreeing with you or anything. I'm just not as fired up about that article as you are.
To me, this article is just a another symptom in the diagnosis of what's going on with our education system. It's just another, like it's like when you get a rash and then the rash starts spreading, and then beyond the rash, now you start getting open sores. Soon you've got to amputate that limb because it's spreading. Well, our educational system is failing our kids so badly, and I just I obviously I feel strong about it, but and it's that time. And by the way, Fury afternoon, and let's see, Redig, if you're listening, uh, welcome. Anyway, y'all all have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Dar, you got anything you want to say before I shut her down for the morning? Oh, he done muted himself. All right, we got Fury and Leslie and Sean, Badger, uh, and Ramen. I want to thank you guys for coming out and saying hi. I appreciate it. The stalwarts. Oh, Snuggy Bear, I don't want to forget you too. The the stalwarts of the stream. I appreciate y'all coming out and listening to me rant and rave. All right. The the future of our country, and I know it seems to be every generation says it. I remember my dad saying it, that our country was going downhill. Is it just because it's changing and it's changing in ways that we don't like, ways that we're not comfortable with, or is it really going downhill? I look at how our kids rank against other children in other countries and the ability to do basic mathematics and the ability to do science. Now, I'm not saying At one time, kids had to learn Latin. Well, I don't think too many schools, except maybe Catholic schools, even offer Latin as a course anymore. I know my older sister, took Latin in high school, but by the time I got to high school, it was dropped. It is French, Spanish, or German were the three languages taught. So, was he wrong, Badger? We've got we've got decisions we got to make. That's all I can say. And we have to look beyond, I guess, beyond what we are as individuals are comfortable with, and what's actually the best. So, but anyway, guys, y'all have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. All right. If you're going to get in trouble, have as much fun getting out of trouble as you did getting into it. And as always, be with the ones you love and love the ones that you're with. And have a good day.